Hello there, in today's video we're going to be talking about the 5 best and the 5 worst bits of photography gear I have ever bought. Let's go. Before we get into it though, this video is sponsored by Squarespace. If you need a domain name, a website or an online store, then make your next move with Squarespace. So this week my car broke down and I was on my way to a shoot and the clutch gave up and I was stranded on the side of a pretty busy road. But it got me thinking just about how reliant I really am on a car to do my landscape photography. Very frustrating, and I'd like to figure out some way to change that. A mountain bike, I think, might be the key. But anyway, the other week on the Photo Nerds podcast, we were talking about our best and worst bits of camera gear. We just talked about one thing, but I thought it was quite an interesting topic. So I thought I would expand on that and make a video about it, because it's just a bit of fun, basically. Now, number one, and what I mentioned on the podcast, is it's not really camera gear, but I do use it for photography all the time, and that is my down jacket. Now, you'll have seen me wearing this on the vlog many times, but it has genuinely been life-changing because as landscape photographers particularly, we spend a lot of time hiking around and you get warmed up through the exercise, you feel comfortable, but then, a bit like idiots, we stand on the side of a mountain in freezing cold conditions, completely still, for an hour or more waiting for the good light. A down jacket just makes that much, much more comfortable. Mine comes in this sort of stuff waterproof bag, which just makes it really ideal for carrying around. They're not great in the rain, I'll give you that, but if you do need this and it's freezing cold, then it's probably going to fall as snow anyway. So down jacket is number one. Whoa. Number two is the Loupedeck. That is this device here. It is a bit like a keyboard that you edit your photos with. And I haven't, strictly speaking, bought this because Loupedeck sent it to me. I am now a brand ambassador for them. This is not an advert though, but it's a device that I really, really love, which is why I've started working with Loupedeck. It's just fantastic. It lets you control all the different elements in Lightroom and some other editors now, including video editors. You can control exposure, the contrast, and it's just a fantastic way to edit. Photo editing is essentially quite a technical exercise with all the sliders. Using this makes it a much more artistic process because having used this for quite a while now, I can edit my pictures just looking at the photo and keeping my hands on this device at all times without even looking. And it just becomes a much more natural process. What I also love about it is because the knobs are so well laid out, you've got saturation and vibrance next to each other, temperature and tint. I can control those with one hand at the same time, which just makes it a really natural process, a fantastic process to edit your images in this way. Number three is my camera, the Canon 5D Mark IV that we are filming on here. And I wanted to mention it. I mean, it's pretty obvious, but it's just a fantastic camera. It is by far the best camera I have ever owned because it just does everything. I reviewed it early on when I bought it, and one of the things I said is it's just like the perfect all-rounder. Now, years later, that has proven to be true. It stood the test of time against newer models and competition that I've tested it against, and just nothing really matches up to what the Canon 5D Mark IV provides. And I just love it. It does everything. Weddings, landscapes, filming, video. It's good for it all. And now, if you were to pick one up secondhand, it's not too expensive. It's still expensive, but it's in a reasonable price bracket now, and it's still a fantastic camera. And I think it always will be as well. Right, number four, what are we on now? What number are we on? 4, I think, is, you might have seen it in the video last week when I did the sort of phone photography video. That is this mount that's made by Newer. And it attaches to your tripod, and it has the 2 different thread sizes to attach to pretty much any tripod. And you then have the ball head to adjust your phone in any which way you choose. Now, I had a lot of fun on that shoot last week doing photography with my phone, and it wasn't like a phone photography session. With this, on the tripod, using the phone, it just felt like a really natural, really liberating, normal session of landscape photography. I had the bigger screen, it's nice and light, and this really helped me out, and it's really good quality, it's really cheap, and yeah, really like the little things. Really like the little things. Now, number 5 comes in this little pouch, and it's not strictly speaking photography gear, but it is video gear. It's a new Rode microphone, a wireless microphone that connects to your camera. You have 2 of these. One is a transmitter, one is the receiver. You pop that on top of your camera, and then the other one clips onto you somewhere with the microphone and records my voice. Now, I absolutely love this. I've only just got it, it's brand new, but with initial testing, the sound is even better than what I had before. And this is my older device, still made by Rode, still a brilliant device, but they essentially do the same thing. And look at the size difference. The weight difference as well. This is carrying 2 AA batteries. This has a small lithium-ion battery. And that is the kind of weight-saving innovation that I absolutely love. Smaller size, better quality, less weight, fantastic. Thank you very much, Rode. These are phenomenal. Okay, so I've got secret number 6 here as well, because I use this all the time, and that is gaff tape. This is got to be a photographer's best friend, because you can fix pretty much any kind of camera gear using this. It's strong, it's tough, and you wrap enough around something and it's not going anywhere. Fixed my bag with it the other week. Brilliant stuff. Definitely worth the 5 or 6 quid that you pay for it. Right, on to the worst bits of camera gear I've ever bought. And please don't troll me for saying any of these, because it's just a bit of fun. But number 1, and I've talked about this before and I took a lot of flack for it, and it is the Canon 10 to 18mm lens for the EFS crop sensor cameras. This has got to be one of the worst, if not the worst, lens I've ever used for interchangeable cameras. It feels like a toy. It's light, it's rickety. Image quality is awful in comparison. The distortion is terrible. It's just rubbish. However, there isn't really anything else that does what this does, because I have used this on every single vlog I have done for pretty much since the start. So I have a bit of a love-hate relationship with it, because it's like one of those cars that's a complete old banger that you just desperately need to get rid of, but you just love it. Or it's like an old mate that just you can't get rid of because you love him. It isn't weather sealed in any way, shape or form, but I've got it wet many times. It's got water all through it. It just dries out and continues working. It has image stabilization. It has that nice wide angle which lets me vlog myself without it feeling like I'm right in your face. And there just isn't really anything else that does that for a crop sensor Canon camera. So whilst I hate it, I also love it, but I wouldn't dream of recommending this to anybody unless you're doing what I do with it. When I reviewed it, I dropped it off my desk and people got really cross. So here we go. Whoa. It'll still work, I guarantee it. Now, number 2, and these are not in any particular order, is the GoPro. Now, there's a lot to like about GoPros, but I just cannot seem to get my head around it. I bought this a little while ago and I have barely used it. It doesn't have great image quality. If you go anywhere above ISO 100, it's just so noisy. It's washed out. There's hardly any sharpness. You've got to use very specific settings to get this to look good. It's a decent action camera if you're going to strap it to a bike or a wingsuit or something like that people use it for. But there are cheaper alternatives now that do exactly the same thing. If I ever need a camera that's this sort of size, I will generally just find myself reaching for my phone these days and using that, because it's just so much more convenient and the image quality is better as well. I know a lot of people love this, including Paul Johnson, who I do the podcast with. He vlogs on it, but I just cannot seem to get my head around it. I think the problem is it's just probably twice as expensive as it should be for what you're getting. There's a lot to like about GoPro, but I just don't like this. And I feel like I wasted my money on it. Right, number 3. I've taken a lot of flack for this before as well, and that is ND grads. I really don't like ND grads because I think they're completely unnecessary. All we're using them for is to try and balance the exposure between the highlights in the image and the shadow areas of your image, just to bring that scene back up to what our eyes and our brain make for us. There's 2 ways to do that. One is to use the ND grads. The second is to use bracketing. I'm a big proponent of bracketing. These things are just a faff. They're just unnecessary because you can do exactly the same thing with bracketing and post-production. Now, a lot of people talk about getting it right in camera, and I'm a big proponent of getting it right in camera actually, but not with exposure. because the cameras don't expose like our eyes see. What's important to get right in camera is composition, and then we can solve the shortcomings of the camera in post-production in terms of exposure. Now, we were talking about this on the podcast the other week, and Gary Goff said that it's nice to see the complete image on the back of the screen rather than just trying to see 3 bracketed shots. And he's right, it is. If you use these, you get a more realistic idea of the final image on the back of your screen. But do you want to pay £600 for that pleasure? I know I don't, although I have. Next up, we have the Canon 5D Mark II. This is one of the greatest cameras of all time, interestingly. It is a legend. It innovated and changed the world of cameras in a way that we'll probably never see again, or maybe not for a while. It started the whole video revolution with DSLRs as well. So this is a legend. However, I made the terrible mistake of buying this on the grey market. So that's really what my worst thing is grey market cameras. Camera gear is just so expensive. So the idea of saving a little bit of money on a grey market camera that's imported from Hong Kong or Singapore or something like that is very appealing. And there's loads of sites on eBay and things where you can do that. I bought this one many years ago through such a site, and it got delivered on time. And then I used it very happily for probably about 2 months. And then it just completely died. It did have a kind of a warranty, but I didn't really fancy sending it back to Hong Kong. I phoned up Canon in the UK. They would not cover it on the warranty. So I ended up sending it to Canon in the UK and paid about £500, waited for 3 weeks without the camera, and it was a very unpleasant and expensive experience, which I will never repeat again. Next up is mid-range camera bags. Now, if, like me, you've been doing photography for a long time, you are bound to have a cemetery somewhere of old camera bags, because we seem to go through so many of them. And I think the reason for that is because of the mid-range ones, which don't really do anything very well. I'm talking about in the range of kind of £50 up to £150, that kind of price region. They aren't waterproof. They aren't particularly comfortable to wear. They're not particularly convenient. They're expensive for what they are, not doing anything very well. If your budget is in that £50 to £150 range, I would highly recommend that you just buy a normal type hiking bag, which is going to be really comfortable, and then buy a sort of fairly cheap camera gear insert that you can just then slot into the bag to keep your camera gear safe. I've now settled on 2 bags. Number one is the f-stop Suka bag, which is astonishingly expensive, but it is also exceptional. It's waterproof, it's comfortable to wear, it carries all my gear, it's nice and big for everything I need to carry around, and I'm so happy with that bag in so many ways, and it's really changed or made my life much more convenient when I'm out doing landscape photography. The second bag is a very cheap Amazon Basics camera bag. I think it costs about £35. It does have a few shortcomings, like the lack of waterproof abilities, but you can forgive that because you've only paid £35 for it. It does have a waterproof cover that comes with it, but I really don't like those because they kind of trap all your gear inside the bag. But it's still a great bag, which I use all the time. Fits everything in for a day trip, and having that kind of one high-end and one really cheap bag works really well for me. So mid-range camera bags, I really don't like them. I'll put links for everything in the description down below, but this video is sponsored by Squarespace. I recently built a new website for my wife, and it's just so good. And it looks modern, it looks classy, and it's great for your business as well. If you go to squarespace.com to start your free trial today, and then if you like what you have created, use the offer code FIRSTMAN to get 10% off your first purchase. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed it. I'll see you on another one very, very soon. I'm Adam. This is First Man Photography, out.